Have you ever found yourself in that silent moment, eyes closed, heart racing, imagining the future so intensely it felt like it was already there? You can almost touch it. You feel the joy before it even happens. You visualize the place, the sound, even the scent of the life you want to live. It's real, for a moment. But then the days go by, and everything returns to the same place, the same routine, the same repeated thoughts. The same subtle emptiness that lingers when nothing seems to move. And then you ask yourself, with that blend of frustration and exhaustion, if I can feel it so deeply, why doesn't anything change? Maybe something even happened. A sign, a small synchronicity, something that felt like the beginning of a shift, but it was brief, fleeting, and now it seems like you're back at the starting point. It's not that you don't believe. You do. You're trying. You're doing everything they say out there, thinking positively, repeating affirmations, meditating. But still, reality doesn't respond, or at least not in the way you hoped. And here's the part almost no one talks about. Visualization isn't enough. You can repeat mental images 1,000 times. You can feel as if it's already real. But if your internal frequency is still tuned into fear, doubt, or lack, the quantum field doesn't recognize your desire. It recognizes what you are, right now. There's a fundamental difference between wanting and vibrating, between imagining and sustaining. And that's precisely where the key begins. The key to what many call manifestation, but few truly understand. The biggest trap on this path is thinking that just imagining something strongly is enough to bring it into your life. It's tempting to believe that. You close your eyes, create the perfect scene in your mind, feel butterflies in your stomach, and believe that this emotional impulse will be enough to shape reality. But the quantum field doesn't respond to momentary intensity. It responds to coherence. And coherence is not what you feel during 5 minutes of meditation. It's what you sustain throughout the day. While you work, while you drive, while you talk, while you wait. The real question isn't, what do you want? The question that changes everything is, what are you vibrating right now? Because the universe doesn't respond to your most beautiful desires, nor to your most sincere intentions. It responds to your energetic signature, to the way you breathe when you're alone, to the decisions you make when no one is watching, to the energy that leaks from you when you think about the future. Is it fear or trust? Is it urgency or presence? Greg Braden calls this energetic integrity. Joe Dispenza speaks of coherence between mind and heart. Neville Goddard said, "You must become what you wish to be." They're all speaking the same truth, just with different words. The field responds to what you are, not what you want, and that changes everything. Because once you understand that frequency is the code, you stop trying to impress the universe with pretty words. You start observing yourself. You begin to notice what you're actually sustaining inside. You realize that visualization is just the spark, but frequency is the fire. Have you ever tried to hold the feeling that it's already yours, only for it to fade after a few minutes? As if something inside pulls you back into doubt, as if the vibration you were trying to sustain felt artificial? That doesn't mean you lack faith. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means your body hasn't updated yet. Your nervous system, which has been programmed through years of experience, trauma, beliefs, and survival, doesn't change just because you decided to think differently. You can say you're prosperous, but if your body has learned to vibrate scarcity since childhood, it's still sending out the same alarm signals. You can affirm that you are loved, but if rejection was your reference point for too long, your field still vibrates with defense, distrust, vigilance. And that's the point. It's not that you're lying to yourself when you imagine living the life you want. It's that your body hasn't yet learned to feel safe in that new space. The discomfort you feel isn't a mistake. It's just the contrast between the vibration of the new you you're trying to embody and the old you your body is still conditioned to protect. Joe Dispenza calls this neurochemical reconditioning. Greg Braden speaks about reprogramming the biological matrix through emotion felt as truth. Neville said, "You must sleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled." They're all saying the same thing. You're not creating something new. You're teaching your body to remember what your soul has always known. That's why at first it feels strange. It feels like you're forcing it. But it's not force, it's conscious repetition until the new frequency becomes familiar, not to the mind, to the body. Because only when the body relaxes into that vibration does the field understand, now, yes, this is real. There's an invisible line between wanting something and living as if it's already yours. As long as you're still asking, even with love, even with faith, you're reinforcing that you don't have it yet. And the field hears that with precision. Every time you beg for a sign, for a miracle, for an answer, the universe doesn't pick up on your desire. It senses your frequency of lack. It's hard to hear that at first. It feels like we're being judged for trying. But the truth is, manifestation isn't about effort. It's not about asking the right way. It's about embodying what is already yours by vibrational right. Neville Goddard spoke of living in the end, not waiting for the outcome, but feeling as if you're already there. Joe Dispenza teaches, the new you can't emerge while you keep feeling like the old you. Greg Braden reminds us that the field responds to emotion as if it were fact. It doesn't matter if it hasn't happened physically yet. If your field is vibrating as real, then it's already in motion. From the moment you stop asking and start deciding, your field changes. You no longer say, I wonder when it will happen. You say, this is how I move now. And this shift doesn't need to be dramatic. You don't need to shout to the world what you've chosen. On the contrary, true transformation is silent, internal, subtle. You simply start to behave, react, and choose like someone who is already living it. And the most magical part, the universe doesn't resist coherence. When you stop vibrating I want and start vibrating I am, you leave the realm of waiting and step into the realm of embodiment. And that's when everything begins to shift. Not because you asked louder, but because you finally became the signal you were trying to send. Act as if it were already yours. This phrase floats around like mystical advice, but in practice it can be misinterpreted. It's not about pretending to live a life that doesn't exist yet. It's not about spending what you don't have, forcing gratitude when you're exhausted, or smiling while everything inside is screaming. To act as if is to train your body and your field to sustain the energy of what you've chosen to live. You don't need to transform your entire life in a single day. You only need to adjust how you move within it. Start small. How would the version of you who lives with lightness sit down for breakfast? How would they speak to themselves after making a mistake? How would they enter a new space with fear or with presence? Each of these choices is a thread of energy, a code, a direction. Greg Braden calls it an emotional vibrational response. Joe Dispenza teaches that every micro-action sends a command to the field. This is what I believe to be real. Neville Goddard would say that it's in these details that you walk in faith. So observe. Do you shrink when you speak your truth? Do you dim your light to fit in? Do you avoid looking at yourself in the mirror with kindness? All of this is informing your frequency, and the universe, impartial, simply responds. You don't need to convince anyone, not even yourself. You just need to start moving as someone who already knows, not to impress the field, but to align with it. Because the reality you long for is not a distant reward, it's a reflection. And the reflection only changes when the movement within changes too. And over time, these small postures add up. They become a field of stability, a new baseline, a vibrational new normal that tells the universe with quiet confidence, I've already arrived. There is a silent, almost imperceptible frequency that separates those who are still seeking from those who have already embodied. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand signs, it doesn't constantly ask, is it happening now? It recognizes. It's that vibration that doesn't need to convince nor justify itself, because something inside already knows. It's not arrogance, it's energetic coherence, it's not mental certainty, it's vibrational security. It isn't born from logic, it's born from the constant choice to remain in the field of already is. Joe Dispenza speaks of this place as a state of presence where biology has already reconfigured. Neville Goddard said this state is sleeping in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Greg Braden explains that it's when emotion stops longing and begins to celebrate, even before seeing any proof. And this is where many people get lost. Because this state is subtle. It doesn't come with fireworks. It's not in a rush. It carries no anxiety. It doesn't ask, where is it? It moves as someone who already has. Think about this. Have you ever seen someone who lives in abundance apologizing for existing? Have you ever seen someone who knows their own worth shrinking in silence? Have you ever seen someone who loves and feels loved doubting the affection they receive? No, because when frequency is stabilized, it becomes nature. That's the point where manifestation is no longer an effort, it becomes an extension of who you are. Reality begins to reorganize around you. Not through magic, but through response. You're no longer asking, you're emitting. And when the emission is stable, the field has no choice. It reflects, it translates, it confirms. The frequency of "it's already mine" is just that. It doesn't wait, it receives. Because it knows it's not about what comes from the outside, it's about what vibrates from within, with such truth that life adjusts around it. Have you ever noticed how on certain days numbers seem to follow you? You check the clock, 777, or as close as time allows. You open a notification, 777 views. You buy something simple and the total comes to 77s and 70 cents. You smile, but part of you wonders, is it just a coincidence? And here's the thing, it's not coincidence. It's coherence reflected. It's not a winning ticket. It's a vibrational mirror. The quantum field doesn't communicate with words. It responds through frequencies, codes, synchronicities. And certain numbers like 777 are like fingerprints of the energy you're sustaining. They don't show up when you're searching for signs. They show up precisely when you've stopped looking and started vibrating with stability. 777 doesn't say your manifestation is coming. It says you've already become compatible with what's orbiting around you. It's as if the universe were saying, I heard you, I felt you, you're aligned. In spiritual numerology, 7 is the number of truth, inner wisdom, and deep connection to the source. When it repeats 3 times, it doesn't amplify luck, it anchors presence. It's like saying, you're no longer wishing, you're embodying. Greg Braden speaks of these moments as vibrational intersection points, when your energy stops oscillating and begins to resonate with a specific timeline. Joe Dispenza reminds us that nothing in the field happens by chance. What seems sudden is only the result of what you sustained in silence. Neville, with his visionary simplicity, would say, you're merely seeing the reflection of what has already happened within you. And here lies the point that many overlook. When that number appears, it's not time to relax or stop. It's time to anchor even deeper, to keep holding the field, to not step out of the vibration just because you haven't seen it with your eyes yet. Because now the field isn't just testing, it's dripping confirmation. 777 didn't come to give you something, it came to remind you of what you've already become. And if you can feel that, not with ego, but with a calm heart, you'll understand. You're not waiting for the miracle. You are the vibrational miracle that has begun to take shape. This is the most delicate part of the process. When the energy starts to shift, you feel it. The field responds with subtleties, more presence, more synchronicity, more lightness in your chest. But along with that comes something else, the silent resistance of your past. Suddenly, old emotions show up. Old thoughts bring back stories you thought you'd already moved on from. Doubt whispers, what if you're just fooling yourself? Scarcity reappears disguised as caution. Anxiety asks, but will it really work? And this is where most people slip. They believe the return of the old self is a sign that the new frequency isn't working. But the truth is exactly the opposite. The old only screams when it starts to lose space. Joe Dispenza explains that the body is addicted to emotions. If you've spent years vibrating fear, anger, abandonment, or inadequacy, your system has learned to function based on those sensations. So when you start sustaining peace, abundance, and trust, your body reacts as if something's wrong. Not because it is, but because it's unfamiliar. Greg Braden says that in those moments, wisdom is allowing the resistance to appear and not fighting it. You observe, you breathe, you recognize, this is just the old me trying to protect me from what it doesn't yet understand. And then, you choose not to go back. Neville Goddard would say this is the moment when you die to your old self, and that death, though symbolic, always brings discomfort. But discomfort is not failure. It's part of the birth. It's the friction between the frequency you were and the one you're becoming. You don't need to banish doubt, just don't invite it to take the wheel. Let it exist, but you decide. You continue. You keep vibrating the new field, even with the old voice whispering in the background. And that's what the field reads. Not perfection, but consistency. You don't have to be 100% certain all the time. You just need to persist more than you doubt. And each time you choose that, one thought, one decision, one breath at a time, you weaken the old version, until it has no strength left, until the who you were feels like a distant memory, and the who you are now becomes so natural that the universe can no longer ignore it. There comes a point in the journey when something shifts deeply. You stop trying to attract. Stop trying to convince the universe that you're worthy, prepared, ready. You stop living in the frequency of someday and start living in the frequency of I am now. And that's when everything changes. Because when you vibrate as someone already living what you desire, the field has no choice but to respond. Not because you're shouting louder, but because your frequency has become stable enough to be decoded without noise. Neville Goddard spoke of this with the simplicity of a master. The outer world is a reflection of the inner world. Joe Dispenza explains, the mind and body, when aligned in an elevated emotional state, create an electromagnetic signature that alters matter. Greg Braden reminds us, we're not attracting what we want, we're reflecting what we vibrate. At this point, your presence changes. People look at you differently. Conversations flow with more synchronicity. Small miracles become almost ordinary. And you no longer feel like an imposter, because what was once practice has become natural, energetic posture. You no longer need to act as if, you simply are, effortlessly, without performance, with no need to prove anything to anyone. And even on hard days when the external chaos tries to pull you back, you don't unravel so easily. Because your starting point is no longer fear, it's coherence. You've trained your system enough for it to recognize stability as home. And here lies the most powerful point of all. You're not manifesting because you've gotten good at wanting. You're manifesting because you realize the desire was only a reminder of what you already were. The field isn't rewarding you. It's simply mirroring who you've become by choosing to stop waiting and start being. Perhaps the most transformative part of all this isn't what you manifest, but who you become in the process. Because over time, what was effort becomes nature. What was practice becomes instinct. What once felt distant becomes home. You're no longer accessing a new frequency for a few minutes during meditation. You're living inside it. It's become your new normal. And that's what most people don't understand about manifestation. It's not about obtaining something outside. It's about living in the internal state where it already exists. Joe Dispenza calls this energetic resonance, the point where body, mind, and field fall into automatic coherence. Greg Braden explains that true power doesn't lie in asking, but in feeling as if it's already real with such consistency that the field aligns by gravity. Neville Goddard said, "It's not about making it happen, it's about assuming it already has." And when you assume that, with calm, with constancy, with quiet faith, reality yields. You stop looking at the world as someone waiting for answers, and start looking at it as someone who knows what's outside is simply aligning with what I already sustain within. You stop searching for signs, and you become a sign of presence, of steadiness, of alignment with what once was a dream and now is pure vibrational field. And then everything changes. You no longer run, you no longer prove, you no longer persuade. You remain, and that steadiness is what moves the universe, not because you bent it, but because you bent inward. And there you found the exact frequency of what you always wanted to live. So now breathe, not as someone who waits, but as someone who anchors. Close your eyes and ask yourself, if I already were, how would I feel right now? And as you feel it, allow your body to memorize it. Let your mind accept it. Let your field hold it. You're not searching for your new self. You've become it. You're not waiting for the quantum shift. You are the quantum shift. And everything around you is simply responding to the vibrational call of this new reality that has already begun to be born through you.